Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of 5 Lug Racing. With you as always, I am Don, my partner in crime, Ryan. We are here breaking down everything from Pocono Race Weekend. We're going to preview a little bit of Atlanta Motor Speedway coming up here in a few days. The playoffs took a little bit of a shakeup once again. We'll get into that in a little bit. As always, we always want to shout out our incredible sponsors. To start off with, KK's Diecast community there on Facebook. We'll go ahead and leave a link to his page down in our description so you can go check out all their stuff. But we got to give away a free diecast. So we got to interact with all sorts of fans throughout Pocono, which was an incredible experience. We got to know so many people, a lot of people checking out all of our pages and our content. They really enjoyed that. Just an incredible event that we got to do for them. Congratulations to Brian Carr. He is the winner of our giveaway. So, he entered that code Tricky Diecast, and it was just an incredible thing that we got to experience. We can't wait to do something like that with him again. Now we get to switch back to our Diecast of the Week, which is something that we've been doing for a few weeks. It's an incredibly fun deal where you get to jump on and do a silent auction. This week's current Diecast of the Week is going to be a Chase Briscoe autographed diecast. It is absolutely gorgeous. We're not going to give away too much on it. You got to go check it out yourselves, guys. Click on the links. Go check it out. We also want to give a big, huge shout out to Lehigh Valley Grand Prix, who hosted us on Thursday. It was actually my birthday that day. Ryan put this thing together with them, and we got to go out and check out their facility. Shout out to their amazing staff. Everything they did hosting us was absolutely incredible. We got to check out the amazing track layout that they have. These go-karts are brand new, guys. If you are in that area, in the Pennsylvania area, go check out this racetrack. These things get up to almost 48 miles an hour, y'all. We were absolutely cooking, Ryan. I mean, it was insane. Of course, you were putting together some of the best 12-lap averages and fast laps of the race. I was struggling to keep up with you. It was so much fun. There was nobody else I would rather come into second place with than you, and I'm glad it was you the whole time, bud. But man, how you doing? How you feeling? What'd you think of Pocono, man?
Oh man, what an exhilarating weekend. From the moment I picked you up at the airport to, going to rip laps around the Lehigh Valley Grand Prix. I told you I was going to be fast.
Yeah.
Just the old man still got it. The old man still got it, No, it just, and then getting to do what we sought after doing, which was covering the entire race weekend. Friday, we were met with some wind, but it all worked out overall. Even that weather delay that pushed things back on Sunday, it ended up still being a beautiful afternoon and evening in the Pocono Mountains on Sunday. We got the race in.
Real quick, I got to interrupt you. Not for nothing. We had a 2.5-hour delay, and we got to meet some more incredible people in the safety crew there at Pocono Raceway. If any of you guys are watching, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It was an absolute pleasure getting to know y'all. Ryan, I didn't mean to interrupt you, bud.
Yeah, no, and that's great because I mean that just kind of piggybacks on what I was about to say. And getting that weather delay was kind of a blessing in disguise because we got to spend that time with the incredible safety crew that, we want to pay homage to the men and women, the hardworking men and women that make this sport happen. And without them, the track cleanup crews and, if a driver's, God forbid, an accident, they're the ones reporting and making sure that they're safe and okay. There's a fire in the pits, whatever may be the case, they're there. And, they are so essential to what the sport does and needs. And it was so great to meet them. Like you said, Don, if they're watching, listening, hey guys, again, that was just an absolute privilege and an honor. We also got more FaceTime with fans, all the fans that were lined up against the gate to the garage area, trying to seek shelter from rain or storms in the area. And, got to hand out more stickers and get more FaceTime, with the crowd. And that was really an awesome and special experience as well. Everything happens for a reason and it all worked out. We got the race in the same day. And yeah, what an amazing weekend start to finish. And we could, the Lehigh Valley Grand Prix, what an amazing birthday we were able to get put together for you, and those brand new karts. Like Don said, if you're in the Lehigh Valley or Eastern PA, get your booties to Lehigh Valley Grand Prix. Go rip some laps around that place. It's a fun indoor racing facility, so rain or shine, you can get out there and do it. Don, we could probably talk about racing all day at the Lehigh Valley Grand Prix because it was that awesome.
Yeah.
But the action on the track at Pocono Raceway was even more exciting. We saw Layne Riggs on Friday take the checkered flag in the Truck Series. On Saturday, we got to see Connor Zilisch get his second win of the season. And then Chase Briscoe getting his inaugural race win with Joe Gibbs Racing. Before we dig in, I just want to give a shout out. I know we thank the safety crew, but the entire staff at Pocono Raceway for their incredible hospitality, whether it was in the media center or anybody, security teams, anybody we met around the facility, the hospitality and their commitment to hosting such, an amazing event. It's just top notch. It was a sellout crowd in the infield the entire weekend. And on Sunday, the entire facility was sold out. That place was packed.
It was
They just do it right. Yeah, they just do it right. I mean, to be standing in the pits in the garage area and hearing the crowds roar, it just gives you chills and goosebumps. And I get chills and goosebumps thinking about it right now because it was just so exciting to be a part of that type of race weekend. Friday, we started in the morning with, our eyes were on Xfinity Tech inspection and the process that the teams were going through, as well as the Truck Series, because, the trucks had to race on Friday.
Yep.
But it was really neat. Friday morning, we got to catch up with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Connor Zilisch while they were working on the car. They had a unique situation because with Marty Lindley, Connor's normal crew chief, having a suspension to serve due to lug nut violation, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the crew chief this weekend.
Yep.
Dale spoke of not having to do as much as the heavy lifting when it came to the car, but man, he certainly had an influence in coaching and strategy throughout that race. Especially when you get into that last caution of the race, and Dale was coaching Connor over the radio on the lane strategy, and their choice was to push the two of Jesse Love, the control car, and push him out and try to get yourself set up to where they could get around Jesse Love. You only had a handful of laps to do it, and Connor just executed that restart flawlessly. At the end of that race, he definitely was the fastest car there. He just needed to capitalize on the track position. Golly, Dale Jr.'s 1 for 1 as a crew chief. It was really neat to sit.
From what we heard,
what's that?
From what we heard from him, it sounds like he's going to be one and done as it is. Like he is like, I'm good being undefeated with this thing, guys.
Yeah, and it was really neat to sit there in the media center, get to ask those questions about that strategy of pushing the two and why he wanted to do that, and then talk to Connor as well post race. This is his second win of the season, but it's his first non-road course win. His team gave him a hard time saying it's still not an oval, it's a tri-oval, but still, we're making progress here. It's a non-road course, and so you got to give it to him. And but no, I asked him. We flat out asked him, do you see yourself now as a legitimate title contender? With the amount of consistency that he's put together since his return from injury at Charlotte has just been lights out. And this 88 team in the Xfinity Series is just flat out rolling right now. And they're going to be a tough out. As we get deeper into this season. I don't think he's done winning either with the way the schedule suits up with some road courses coming up. And, again, we talk about how better he's getting on these ovals. So, I don't think by far he's done. He's got 2 on the year and he's still counting checkers. So, and then we get into, roll back to Friday, right? The Truck Series race. We saw Corey Heim, Don, with an absolute rocket ship of a Tricon Toyota. And it's no surprise because that's what they do every week. I mean, they are the model of speed. But once again in stage 3 had another issue. This time a flat tire. They were coming to the green flag with 19 laps to go, and he has to pull down onto pit road because he has a flat tire.
Yeah.
And that created a little bit of a mess because Carson Hosefar then slides up, moves forward, gets a little bit confused with the rules, thinking he'd be the control truck, but really it was Layne Riggs.
Yep.
So restart violation for the 7, who, thought it was a control truck. Boom, takes the lead, but he has to do a pass through.
Yep.
34 of Riggs inherits the lead, and he holds on for the win. So his first win of the season, huge for them because now they're 100% locked into the playoffs in the Truck Series.
Yep.
And the 34 team, Front Row Motorsports in the Truck Series has been getting stronger. It's not just him; it's his teammate Chandler Smith. They both now have got wins on the season, and they're tough. If there's anybody that right now that can go toe for toe in the Truck Series with the 11 Tricon team, it is those Front Row trucks. So it'd be interesting to see going forward how that plays out. Now the Truck Series is the only series racing this weekend that will be on a different track. They're going to Lime Rock up in Connecticut. And, that's a road course. So, they'll go road racing while we see the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series head on down to Echo Park Speedway in Atlanta for some, pack style racing.
Yes, sir.
Now, we move into Sunday, right? And what a mixed bag of emotions with success for some teams and seemingly some failures for some others. We got to talk about some of the biggest blemishes that we saw on the day right off the bat. We got to call it out. 2311 had an absolutely abysmal Pocono race weekend. So it started with the 35 and Riley Herbst early in the race. Riley Herbst going into 1, gets into the wall. It turns out, it wasn't a flat tire. It was the brake rotor that came apart.
Yep.
And then, we re-rack them, and a handful of laps later, we saw the same exact thing happen to the 23.
Yep.
And as they're talking about it with the 23 over the radio with Billy Scott and Tyler Reddick, we're talking, Tyler Reddick, radio's in. Yeah, I'm feeling the brake chatter now. So I want to explain to everybody at home what really happened here, because the brake failures, now Billy Scott, crew chief for Tyler Reddick, had said, your rotors were hundreds of degrees cooler than the 35 and the 23 in practice. But he still had a brake chatter. He still ended up going behind the wall to repair the issue, which I'm going to get into what the issue actually is in a second. But they go 2 laps down. They never recover. All 3 of those cars had a sub 30 place finish day. Not good. Not good when we're getting this close to the postseason cut line, and not good when we have new race winners. And again, we'll talk about that in just a moment, but to not drift off the path here. So when you're trying to create downforce on a big track like Pocono Raceway, and with downforce comes speed, right? You take some risks. And with that risk was they limited how much brake cooling they put onto those brakes to try to get more downforce and speed. We rewind to Saturday. The 45 and the 23 were absolute rocket ships in practice.
Yep.
A really good pace. Top 5 pace. Looked like they were going to be a threat to win the weekend. Heck, the 23 was incredible. Bubba Wallace was the best out of the entire bunch. He unfortunately had to start in the rear because they had a starter fail when they went to start the car for qualifying.
Yep.
And we thought he was going to be a threat for the pole, at least the top 3. It just, mechanical issues there. This is not the first time that they've had starter issues. The Toyotas in general have had starter issues this year.
Yep.
And that's something that they're going to have to work out with their vendors. Defective parts happen. I worked 20 plus years in the automotive service industry. I understand you can get new parts or fairly new parts out of a box and have a failure. It happens. But as we creep on further and further and further, and you talk about a place like Pocono where track position is so key, you can't be shooting yourself in the foot mechanically. That's out. I mean, that's nothing the crew did wrong. That's nothing the driver did wrong. It just stinks, right? It's just the cards you're dealt. But yeah, I mean, it just was an abysmal weekend for 23XI. And it hurt them really dearly in the point system. We have to also talk about another big blemish on the day. Like, this type of blemish just can't happen. We got to talk about the 6 team and Brad Keselowski. Donnie was your dark horse for the weekend.
Right.
And you might have hit the nail on the head had they not done what they did. And because the 6 team was absolutely bad fast. And they played the strategy right too. They were definitely going to be in contention for the win, just like their teammate in the 17, Chris Buescher was. They had a lot of speed, and actually the 60 was fast too. Ryan Preece had a good weekend.
Yeah.
Hats off to the RFK boys and women back at the shop. You brought some ponies to Pocono, and Brad really just, for a veteran to make this type of mistake just can't happen. Now, not all falling on Brad. And in my opinion, really, so he would see the lights. But other than that, you got to rely on your spotter and your crew chief. The communication's got to get better. And what I'm referring to is Brad Keselowski, under caution from the lead, comes down pit road when pit road is closed.
Huge.
For a routine pit stop. He did not need to come down pit road and start at the tail in the field because of a flat or anything like that. He was coming down for a routine pit stop, folks. Thought he'd have the rest of the field behind him, and when he looked behind him, nobody was there. It almost pulled down. I do believe Alex Bowman was behind him at the time. It almost pulled him down, but then he was like, "Wait, no!" What's going on? Like, what is Brad doing there? Like,
right?
I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Because I was radioing to you, "Hey, we're pitting this time," because we were trying to get footage on a pit stop. We were in a pit stall, and I'm like, "Wait, no, they're not coming. It's closed. I don't know what the 6 is doing." Couldn't believe that, man. Just come on. We've seen this 16 just find every which way to lose a race, and they just added another one to it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We're going to call it for what it is. That can't happen. That's a rookie mistake with a veteran team. Just can't happen.
Absolutely. I actually left a comment on RFK's Instagram. They had a post last week, and I left a comment, and I was like, we might actually not see RFK in the playoffs this year. And it got a ton of responses, as far as people's opinions on it. And the proof is in the pudding, guys. I mean, we're talking about mental errors that are now taking them. We're not talking about penalties. We're not talking about X, Y, and Z now. We're talking about straight up rookie errors from a NASCAR champion. You can't have it, guys. Absolutely can't have it. I still think there's a chance that maybe Chris Buescher gets a win and possibly punches a ticket. Ryan Preece, he's been sniffing. He's been close. But Brad has just been on another level this season. We thought we were going to see it turn, and it just keeps getting worse. So I'm out of opinions on it, y'all.
Yeah, and we can't make excuses for it anymore either. And you might be right about your take with RFK not making it as well. I mean, I know Ryan Preece, he's right below the bubble, -20. Buescher +38 above the bubble. But here's why we may not see them in. Not only Buescher had speed this weekend. He was in contention to. He was one of the 3 cars in contention to win this race when it came down to it. But we had another new winner this week.
Yes, we did.
And we've got 9 races left before the playoff starts, and 5 spots remaining to lock into the postseason.
Yep.
Math.
Do the math.
If we get 5 new winners, the odds of that happening are slim and none. Let's just be honest, but it could happen. And I think we're going to have at least 1 to 2 new winners. So then that bubble gets extremely tight. There's no margin for error anymore. Everybody has had their mulligan races. You got to show up. You got to perform. You got to get stage points, and you got to get the finishes, folks. And I'm talking about everybody. Y'all need it. Everybody. And
Yep.
and even guys like Christopher Bell were talking about stage points and how important it is to get stage points still, because they're thinking about the postseason, even though he's got 3 wins.
Right.
So when you sit and think about it, everybody's fighting for it. Now we get this new little wrinkle the next couple weeks with an in-season tournament, and it was asked in the media center with some drivers, and some of them don't even seemingly, I hate to say it this way, but they seemingly don't even care, because their focus is the points,
Right.
and their focus is going out to win. So they'll let that fall where it falls. But some of them are like, well, what's the prize? And we're like $1 million. And they're like, well, yeah, I want to win, but like,
right. But that just goes to show that that's how laser focused some of these guys are, right? I mean,
right.
they've got this 5 race, I believe it's 5 races, right?
Yeah, I do believe so. Yep.
Yeah, we've got this in-season tournament where the bracket's set up and they're head-to-head all the way through, and you basically build your way down into a final 2 for all the marbles. And like you were saying, some of these guys didn't even really pay mind to what was taking place. Like, they knew about it, but they were just like, like you said, what's the prize at the end of this thing? They're so laser focused, and it was kind of a breath of fresh air to see that they're not getting distracted by some of this stuff. It's going to be a blast for the fans. All right, let's just call it what it is. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be really cool to see everybody kind of put together their own brackets at home. For those of you who don't know, we've got our own little deal set up that Ryan threw up on our social media today. Go check that out. Go fill out your own bracket, and you'll have a chance to come on the show if you win and hang out with us. That would be absolutely incredible and so much fun. But yeah, right back to the point, talking to the drivers, especially the playoff guys, they were just like, yeah, it'd be great to win, but there's bigger things on the horizon for us. So.
Yeah. And, speaking of bigger things on the horizon, we got to talk about Chase Briscoe, because Chase Briscoe just reeled in a big win. So we got to talk about this because of a couple things. First of all, what a masterclass in fuel saving. Yeah. Because his last pit stop did not go as planned.
Correct.
They were not supposed. They had a miscommunication. He was not supposed to go on the jack. He was supposed to go when James Small told him to go. And Chase, for some reason, there was a disconnect there, and he went. Now the fuel man follows him as much as he can, but then disconnects. And I happened to be standing by that pit box when that happened. Don, you got excellent footage of that final race-winning pit stop. But little did we know at that time that was going to be a race-winning pit stop, because they were nervous. I looked up at the pit box, and I saw their fuel strategist just losing his mind for a moment. He was mad because they didn't execute the pit stop how they had discussed it, and it thought it was going to cost them a race or a chance at it. They did cycle around, had the lead, and then a caution comes out. Well, that caution was kind of a saving grace because it allowed him to get even more fuel saved. For those watching at home, you get, for every 1 lap under green is like 2 under caution.
Right.
So, and at a 2.5 mile track like Pocono, that's a lot of fuel. So masterclass in fuel savings, Mr. Briscoe. Good job, because, that final restart, he's able to best his teammate, Denny Hamlin, who, seemingly was set up for making this place his Pocono playground once again. He had the pole. He was bad fast all weekend. They played the strategy right. And they were a top 5 car the entire race. And really thought, oh, here we go. Hamlin's going to get this thing. Buscher was there too. And the three of them were all fighting. Nobody could run down Chase Briscoe, even when he was saving. He was driving it deep into one, rolling it out, and getting that savings. He would gap him and let him catch back up, and then gap him again, and it was just enough. And then you hear it post race. Chase leans into Denny Hamlin in victory lane when Denny came in to congratulate him and said, Chase said to Denny, "You kept me honest." You
Yeah.
know, Denny was pushing him too, but Denny also had to try to make it on fuel. So, but he had more than Chase. But yeah, that handful of laps at that end, it was like, oh man, is he going to make it? He did, and he even had enough to do a beautiful burnout and ran out right as he drove right past us running into victory lane.
Yep.
He drove right past us running into victory lane with it, and he ran out. And at that point, it didn't matter because he coasted it in there, climbs out of his car, and celebrates his first inaugural win with Joe Gibbs Racing. And what a sigh of relief that has got to be for him, and also James Small. And it also makes Joe Gibbs look really good because Chase Briscoe was a hot commodity last year.
Yep.
When Stuart Haas Racing said they were no more, you had a young, up and coming driver in Chase Briscoe who is now a free agent, and got that a chance to go to Joe Gibbs. They had a little bit of a tie there with Christopher Bell being there. Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe are really, really good friends. They kind of came up through this deal together.
Yep.
And then they ended up being teammates now. And Christopher Bell was actually the first one in victory lane to congratulate Chase. I don't know how Christopher Bell got changed that quickly. He was out of his stuff and in street clothes and in victory lane quicker than like you could snap your fingers. I don't know how he did it, but he was there. He was the first one there to congratulate him and Joe, and it was really, really cool and special to see. But you want to talk about a moment like a rebirth, so to speak, in a career. Your last win is on an exodus of a race team, and a huge win to put yourself in that team that's leading the sport.
Yep.
in the playoffs. And now you're on a team where you're expected to win, and you do that before the playoffs, and you lock yourself in. Now listen, Chase has been fast this year. They've had the moments. They've been fast on qualifying. He leads the series in 4 poles, and it's just like, when's it going to all come together? And there was moments where, like, I could think back to Mexico 2 weeks ago, where they were probably set up to finish second there.
Yeah.
At worst. The strategy was played out right, and then they hurt themselves, and then they put themselves back there. And a JGR car does finish second in Mexico to SVG. And let's be honest, SVG had the field covered there. But the 19 and the 20, they played the strategy right. They would have been there, duking it out for at least a runner-up finish. Who knows if something plays out differently if you got your shot at that 88 car of Shane. But it's just the inconsistencies that Briscoe's had during a race, where they've shown the speed early and then they just can't seem to get that finish, or vice versa, where they make the mistakes early and then they rebound and they do get that top 5 finish when they might have been, what could have been type of deal. And they finally put it all together here at Pocono, and it's great to see. Now we have 11 drivers that have won a race this year going into this weekend at Echo Park Speedway in Atlanta. And it's insane because that's an ultimate wild card, where, like I said earlier, 9 races left, 5 spots remaining. The proverbial wild card race where we could absolutely see another first time season winner, heck, maybe even a first career win. With the way that this type of event shapes up, Hocevar nearly won here in the spring, and had that caution not fallen when it did, we may not have been talking about Christopher Bell winning. We could have been talking about Carson Hocevar or Kyle Larson winning,
Yep.
because they were all right there, and seemingly the momentum was building for that 77 and the 5 to run it out to the finish, where the 20 was up higher and might
Right.
not have worked out, Don. So who knows? I mean, Atlanta is, the way this place is configured. It's fast, it's pack racing, and it's anybody's game. I look back at the stats, because that's what we do, right? We got to bring it all to you,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do that right now. When the average finish, aside from one outlier, everybody's in a 10th place average finish or worse, because of how this place plays out.
Right.
So there really has not been a dominant car per se as far as average finish. I will say that as far as laps led's concerned, Joey Logano's up there with 15.5% of the laps led. Austin Cindric, his teammate, at 10.6. Chase Elliott at 8%. And Ross Chastain at 6.4. And then that's right under 6% is Ryan Blaney, another Penske car. So, who, by the way, has the best average finish here at 6.7 in the last 7 races. So, it's still anybody's game, though. When you look at who was running up front in these races the last couple of years, you've had Daniel Suarez win here, and one of the closest finishes in at that time it was the closest finish in the series history until Kansas later on that season between Larson and Buescher. But we've also seen Kyle Busch close here, and we've seen Chastain close here, and Justin Haley's run well here. Michael McDowell. The list goes on and on. AJ Allmendinger seemingly runs really well here, has an average finish of 11th.
Yep.
So who knows what we're about to see this weekend? But all I have to say, Don, is if we get another new winner, oh my goodness, that would leave 4 playoff spots. 4 with 8 races. That's like if you're near that bubble, you've got to be feeling all types of ick right now, because you're not safe. And we spoke with Tyler Reddick in the bullpen in the media center this week, and he said he feels that he needs to win it's going to take a win to get into the postseason.
Right.
And after this, and that was before he had a bad Pocono race weekend. Yeah, I would have to agree with you, Mr. Reddick. You're looking more and more like you need one. Same thing with his other 2311 teammates. Riley Herbst, nowhere near the bubble. So he absolutely needs one. But Bubba Wallace, who's arguably having a career year minus the wins, he's having the good finishes, but he's also had those bad ones. Like, if you can take out those bad luck finishes, most of these finishes that he's had aren't of his own doing.
Right.
And it's just like, if you can throw those out, career year for Bubba so far. So
and
yeah.
I'm not big on hypotheticals, but as far as Bubba Wallace goes, and many other drivers, if they don't run into some of these issues like we run into race after race after race, they probably do have a win on the season. And that's the nature of the beast when it comes to NASCAR racing, y'all. You got to be good. You got to be consistent. You got to finish races. And if you're not finishing races, you're sure as heck not winning them. So, regardless of whose fault it is, got to find a way to get that race car to the finish line. And like you said, it's getting to the point where these guys are going to have to get a win, or else their seasons are going to end in 9 weeks. And it's not a great feeling, right? So, put that car in victory lane and get yourself a playoff spot, because it's a hot commodity and there's not very many left.
Yeah, and it's not that their season's completely over. If you're just tuning in, if it's NASCAR first time, the great thing about our sport is even when the playoffs are going on, all teams still compete. All teams get a chance to vie for a win.
Right.
You just don't get that chance for that championship, and let's be honest, that's what we're racing for, is the opportunity to be a NASCAR Cup Series champion, or a NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, or a NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champion. As we dwindle these races down, they get closer and closer and closer to these cut lines. That's what we're all jockeying for, is the chance to be a champion in your sport.
Yep.
Winning races is great, but hosting that championship trophy at the end of the year, that's a dream come true for all these drivers.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's just we're in for another exciting weekend of racing because Truck Series heading out to Lime Rock, gonna do some road course racing. Be interesting to see how that all shakes out. I do expect the 11 to be fast again, but I do expect some of those other drivers to be vying for a potential win there. Road racing can be an equalizer sometimes.
Yep.
Whereas we go into that other equalizer with the pack racing for the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series for some night racing. Friday night will be under lights with the Xfinity Series. Saturday night with the after Lime Rock. Saturday afternoon, you could stay glued into your TV, folks, because you got Cup Series racing Saturday evening. It's going to be very, very exciting. I can't wait to watch again with and break this all down next week. But we're getting to that point where it's time for the dark horse and time for the favorites. And I'll go ahead and lead off with my dark horse. I had mentioned him in the driver averages and statistics, and he's a driver that I really think could absolutely throw a monkey wrench into the postseason that we just talked about, because right now he's below the cut line, sitting in 20th in points and playoff points. We're talking about Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has had every opportunity to win this race here at the Echo Park Speedway at Atlanta, and I think that they absolutely can be a car to reckon with here this weekend. In the Xfinity Series, I know the RCR cars are going to be bad fast. Jokingly talking with one of the crew members from that race team, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm really looking forward to going to Austin Hills Speedway this week." And I said, "I'm sure you are. It's they know they're going to be good there." And but when on the Cup side of things, the spacer races, where we run in the packs, the Daytonas, the Talladegas, the Atlanta, Kyle Busch has got a shot. And, we know the RCR stuff is top notch there at those tracks. And, it's not that they haven't had speed at other races, but I expect this is a Kyle Busch type of racetrack. He's really good at these pack style races. And I really think that Kyle Busch can punch his ticket to the postseason at Atlanta this weekend. And oh boy, would that cause a serious mix-up in these points, because as of right now, if the points stayed how they would, he would knock Alex Bowman out of the playoffs.
Yep.
If nobody else shifted positions, that win would bump Bowman out of the postseason.
Yep.
It's close, folks. If you look at that bubble in that cut line, if you're Chris Buescher in 14th at plus 38, Bubba plus 29, Alex Bowman plus 20, you got to be feeling icky right now, and you need to win. Reddick is plus 107, even after that bad weekend, because they've had the good consistency for the most part this season, but 107 is not safe.
Right.
It's a lot safer than those other three names I just named, but it's not safe by far. And Chase Elliott plus 160, he's probably feeling a little bit more comfortable. However, last year we had seen a driver with a really big cushion nearly miss the postseason.
We were breaking that down every single wheelie. We're 4 weeks ago. We're like, Martin Truex Jr. is good.
Yep.
He's got a 124-point lead. Punch that ticket. We get down to the last race of the season, and his lead was like, man, he was down to like 20 points. If he wrecks out of that race, he's not making the playoffs. It was crazy. So lesson learned as far as we go and breaking down these races, because we were literal witnesses of watching a team just absolutely crumble towards the end of the regular season and almost miss the playoffs.
Yeah. So, nobody is safe.
Right.
Go perform.
Yep. Go get it.
So, Don, who's your dark horse?
Oh man, love your dark horse, bud. Kyle Busch. For as rough as it's been for almost 2 full seasons for Mr. Rowdy Busch, you can never count him out. The dude is a champion. He knows how to win races. He's done it a couple of times. I'm not sure what the count is. Maybe 3 or 4 total career wins. I lost count. No, it's a great pick. Rowdy Busch always knows how to get it done in every style of racing. We've seen it for 20 years now, and it would not surprise me to see the 8-car RCR get that victory and shake up the playoffs even more than they already are after Chase Briscoe getting this win. So love your pick. I'm going to go ahead and stick on the Chevy camp with you. We see Chevys do really well at this style of racing. We've seen guys like Carson Hocevar show tremendous speed at this style of racing in that Spire stable. No, my pick is not going to be Carson. I do think that he's going to finish well this week, but give me another Spire car and Michael McDowell. We've seen him win at this style of racing before. Yes, it was on a 2.5 mile track, but it's the same idea. He knows how to draft. He knows how to push. He knows how to strategize. And I would not be surprised to see that 71 car make some noise by the time this thing is done. Of course, he's got to dodge all the nonsense, right? You got the big one you got to worry about. You got the full fuel strategy you got to play with a little bit here and there. Give yourself a chance to be there at the end. And as a dark horse, I think Michael will do just that and find himself towards the front at the end of this race.
Yeah, and I love that pick. He's a Daytona 500 champion, so he knows how to get around a pack style race. Yeah, I mean, he hit lights out. Spire has definitely shown the speed it takes to win these races. They just got to go do it. And they've had some misfortune too in some of these events. So we'll call it for what it is. But I absolutely love it, Don. I definitely think Michael McDowell is more than capable of winning at Echo Park this weekend. Now we get into the favorites, and I'm a bonehead, Don, and I'm going to have to do this a little bit backwards because I actually gave you my favorite first. I really am going to I am really all in on the Rowdy Busch this weekend, the 8-car. And both of my favorites are coming well below the cut line.
Okay.
Whether it's favorite, dark horse, whatever you want to play it. The graphic that we release later this week will look right. But yeah, Kyle Busch, everybody listening, Kyle Busch is my favorite. Okay, give me the 8-car for my favorite. My dark horse, which I now have to give you out of the favorite spot because I'm a bonehead, is a team that has been absolutely putting together some solid races week in and week out. And they're not just qualifying good, but they're putting the race together and they're getting the finishes. And
Yep.
we're seeing it more and more and more and more consistently. And you know what? On an equalizer race, like when we're running in these tight packs, why not them race? If they're showing the speed on the tracks that are tough to show speed on, definitely why not on a track like this? As long as they can avoid the mess and put themselves in position, I absolutely can see this as a possibility. So I am all in on John Hunter Nemechek as my dark horse this week. The Legacy Motorsports, their switch to Toyota last year was a big move for them and getting the support that they needed. No disrespect to Chevy and the bow tie, but you know how many bow tie teams there are out there.
Yep.
And when it comes to Toyota, there's a strength in numbers. There's not as many Toyota teams as there are Ford and Chevy. And, Toyota support has been huge for Legacy Motor Club. And I absolutely love the turnaround we're starting to see with the 43, the 42. The speed is there. And John Hunter is another one of those young drivers taking the most out of the opportunity he's getting. And when he gets a fast car, listen, he could win in this sport. Okay, he has not won a cup race yet, but we've seen him hoist trophies in the other 2 series. The guy knows how to get it done. And when you give him a fast car, he's getting the results. He qualified 4th at Pocono, finished 6th at the race. The results are coming for this guy. I like what I'm seeing out of Legacy. Give me the 42 car as my dark horse this weekend. Not my favorite. I picked out of the wrong spot. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just had my notes reversed there. My note cards got flipped. But anyway, yeah. So just
now that we got Ryan's 2 dark horses out of the way, we can. No, I love the picks, bud. You're always spot on with everything you break down. I love it absolutely. As far as myself, that we see this season after season after season, especially in the next gen era. And what I mean by that is Penske boys and them Fords find a light switch halfway through the season, and all of a sudden they start rattling off wins, whether it be Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and even Austin Cindric in there. He's starting to find more and more consistency as these seasons play on. That being said, Ryan Blaney, coming off a win a few weeks ago, I think he's going to have a great just head of momentum. They always show incredible consistency at this style of racing. And of course, these guys can get it done. Do not be surprised to see the 12, 2, 22, and 21 in the top 10 all day long. Whether it's on a pit strategy or flipping stages, it doesn't matter. Those cars always find themselves up front at these style of races. I would not be surprised to see the 12 car Ryan Blaney in victory lane at Austin Hill Speedway this weekend. Excuse me, Echo
Yeah.
Park Speedway.
Yeah.
All kidding aside, Ryan Blaney, he's a champion for a reason. He knows how to win at all sorts of different styles of racing, and this drafting style track is no different from that.
Absolutely, Donna. I absolutely love the pick. I can't argue with that at all. Like you said, any of them Penske boys can be punching a ticket to victory lane this weekend here at this style track. It suits them, and not just the pack racing in general. Listen, Blaney's excellent at Talladega. Like you talk about pack racing, like he just knows how to get around a joint like that. But you see it at Atlanta as well. They struggle at Daytona at times, and that's because of luck, right? That variable, that wild card that goes, why we call it a wild card race. I love the pick, and Atlanta is one of those places where they do flex. Logano as well. Logano got a win here in the postseason, not long ago. So, the Penske cars definitely know how to whip around this joint. Love the Blaney pick. Can't argue against it at all. It's going to be a really, really exciting weekend to see how it all shakes out. Of course, we could be totally off with our picks because of this style race that it is. There's a handful of other drivers I'm sure both of us would have liked to have mentioned, but we want to keep it mixing it up, and I'm really looking forward to it though. And if our dark horses come true, oh boy, because even in my favorite, because like I said, you can argue I have two dark horses. One of my dark horses is a favorite, but when you're picking from drivers that haven't had that consistency this year, like you said, and they pop into the top 16 in points all of a sudden, oh boy. So yeah, I'm really, really, as we get closer and closer and closer to these playoffs, it's, not only are us analysts going to be sweating it, the drivers and the teams are as well. So look forward to it.
We got to talk with Chase Briscoe there a little bit at the press conference, and he talked about how he instantly felt this weight just completely lifted off of his shoulders.
100 pounds lighter, he said.
He
100
said
pounds lighter.
Pounds lighter, and now that's not from all the sweat that you lose racing at a track like Pocono. We're talking about the pressure that sits on these teams and drivers to get a win and get yourself out of the playoff for a chance to win a championship for your team. And that pressure is heavy, y'all. I mean, it is. They're not kidding around when they say stuff like that. So it's going to be really intriguing to watch. I have no doubts we might see one or two new winners before this regular season comes down to its closing stages. But I'm excited, as a fan of the sport, as somebody that loves to now break down the sport with you, Ryan. I love that pressure. I think it adds excitement. I think it keeps you engaged. All the good stuff that comes with being a sports fan is just ramps up the next 8 weeks, the next 9 weeks. And it really is a lot of fun. It's really special to watch. Before we shut this episode down, I did want to mention one thing. We had something really scary happen at Pocono International Raceway this weekend. And if you were watching the race or if you saw the highlights, that AJ Allmendinger, accidentally hit a crew member holding one of his tires. And what happened was it launched that tire forward into the next pit stall, while just so happened that Shane Van Gisbergen's was coming into his pit stall, and his crew members were running off of the pit wall to do their pit stop. And thank goodness he's okay. He did suffer some injuries. I think he's supposed to be out a week or two. But JP Keeley,
JP.
Yeah, the rear tire changer for Shane Van Gisbergen took a NASCAR Cup tire to the face and chest this past Sunday. Extremely scary situation. I know his family had to have been absolutely beside themselves when they saw him go down. Now, that being said, these guys are freaking tough, okay? Once JP kind of gathered himself for a second, kind of shook the stars off, he picked up his impact gun, ran around to this race car with a collapsed lung and 2 broken ribs, and finished
He
that pit.
finished the stop. Yep.
So let's give credit where credit's due. JP, we're glad you're gonna be okay. We hate seeing anybody get injured across any sport. I mean, that's just something you don't wish for anywhere. But when you have race cars going 55 miles an hour down a pit road, launching tires into another pit box, and he never even saw it coming. I mean,
Right.
that tire showed up in his lap, and he was on the ground quicker than anybody can make sense of what happened. So I just wanted to take that moment. JP, I hope you have a speedy recovery, bud, if you get a chance to see this. But yeah, all the fans of the SVG and that pit crew, just glad that he's okay. And I just wanted to make sure that was out there.
Yeah, absolutely, JP. Best wishes to you and your in your recovery. And from everything we're seeing, he should be back in time for the playoffs. So that's good to know. But yeah, hate to end it on a note like that, but that's the ups and downs that come and the ebbs and flows that come with this sport. It's a risk that anybody takes, whether you strap the belts into the car itself or you hop over that wall and plunging yourself in front of not only one moving car but many, and then the moving obstacles, like you said, the tire that hit the air gun that went into his chest, and it's just all those intangibles, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, JP is going to be good, and you love to see that as that aspect. I mean, yeah, unfortunately he got hurt, but he's going to make a recovery. He's going to be good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can actually end it on that positive note rather
Yeah.
than bringing down the party. But no, yeah, we're glad he's okay. Yeah, another great episode, Ryan. Again, thank you, your family, and everything you guys did for me hosting Pocono, my first trip to Pennsylvania, my first trip to Pocono, my first trip to really the Northeast in over 20 years. I haven't been up there since I was 15 years old, and it wasn't even for racing. I was visiting family. So it was a completely crazy experience. I love that I got to see around your hometown. Thank you so much for everything you guys did for me. As far as all of our fans and followers, go check out our social medias. We are posting all sorts of content from Pocono weekend, including action from the track, interviews, engagement with fans, everything. We had an absolute blast. So shout out to Pocono Raceway for making that happen again. And yeah, man, we got Atlanta this weekend. The weather does look a little sketchy, so everybody keep your eyes on that. We're hoping that the 50-50 turns into more of a 100-0 and no rain. If NASCAR's in town, rain usually follows. So that's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, we'll be here next week breaking it all down for you guys. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Y'all have a great one.